Most Holy Mary's clear vision of the divinity. The highest and most excellent of all her visions were those of the beatific vision of the divine essence, for in her state of pilgrimage she many times enjoyed the unveiled vision of the divinity. I shall mention all these visions in the course of this history, according to the time and occasion in which she enjoyed the supreme privilege of a creature. Some doctors are in doubt whether the other saints have reached the state of seeing the Godhead clearly and intuitively while yet in mortal flesh. But whatever may be their uncertainty about such visions in regard to other saints, no such doubt can be entertained in regard to the Queen of Heaven, and it would be an injury to her if we were to measure her favors with the common measure of the saints. Many more favors and graces than were even possible in them actually were consummated in the Mother of Grace, and it is at least possible that beatific vision can take place in men yet in their pilgrimage, whatever may be the mode in which this happens. The first requisite of a soul, which is to see God face to face, is a degree of sanctifying grace most exalted and far above the ordinary. Now the degree of sanctifying grace which Mary reached from the first moment of her existence was superabundant, and of such perfection that it exceeded that of the highest seraphim. In addition to sanctifying grace, there must be great purity of all the faculties, without a shadow of guilt or the least inclination to sin. Just as a vessel which has contained any impure liquid, and which is to be filled with another pure substance, must be cleansed, washed, and purified until not a taste or odor of the former remains, so as not to infect the new substance, so all traces of sin, and much more of actual sin, contaminate and infect the soul. And because all these effects make the soul unfit for divine bounty, it must be prepared before it can be united with God by the intuitive vision and beautifying love. It must be cleansed and purified, so that not a vestige of the odor or the taste of sin remains, nor any traces of vicious habits or inclinations consequent thereon. This applies not only to the effects and stains of mortal, but also venial sin, all of which cause in the soul a special turpitude, like to that which, according to our way of understanding such things, ensues when a foul breath covers and obscures the clearness of crystal. All its brightness and purity must first be restored to the soul before it can see God face to face. Moreover, besides this purity, which is, as it were, the negative cleansing of the nature of him who is to enjoy the vision of God, it is necessary to cauterize the infection of original sin, so that it is entirely extinct and neutralized, as if it had never existed in the creature. Thus all trace or inward cause inclining it to any sin or imperfection must first be done away with, and the entire free will must, as it were, be made incapable of everything which in any way is opposed to highest sanctity and goodness. Hence, on account of what I shall mention afterward, it will be easily understood how difficult it is for the soul to attain the necessary condition for the clear vision of God in mortal flesh, and that it can be conceded to the creature only with great circumspection, for most important reasons, and after great preparation. According to my understanding, there are two kinds of incongruities and divergencies of the sinful creature in regard to the divine nature. The first consists in this, that God is invisible, infinite, a pure and simple act, while man is a corporeal, earthly, corruptible, and coarse substance. The other incongruity is caused by sin, which is immensely distant from the divine goodness, and this entails a greater divergence and alienation than the first. But both of them must be done away with before such extremes can be united, and before the creatures can rest in this supreme manner in the deity, and before it can assimilate itself with God so as to see and enjoy him as he is. All the requisites of immaculate purity and transparency, excluding all sin and imperfection, were possessed by the Queen of Heaven in a much higher degree than even by the angels, for she was touched neither by original nor by actual sin, nor by any of their consequences. In this regard, divine grace acted more powerfully in her than was merited by the impeccable nature of the angels. And in Mary there was no disproportion nor any obstacle of sin which could retard the vision of God. On the other hand, besides being immaculate, the grace given to her in the first instance exceeded that of the angels and saints, and her merits were in proportion to that grace. By her first act, she merited more than all the others, even by their most perfect and consummate acts, which they have performed in order to reach beatific vision. Therefore, if it is just that in the other saints the reward of glory merited by them be deferred until the end of their mortal life, it does not seem against justice that this law was not followed so strictly in regard to Most Holy Mary, and that the Most High Ruler should and really did proceed differently with her during her mortal existence. The Most Blessed Trinity would not suffer such a long delay in regards to her, and manifested itself to her many times, since she merited it above all the angels, seraphim, and saints, who, having less grace and merits, are enjoying the supreme beatitude. Moreover, there was another reason why the divinity should manifest itself clearly to her, namely, since she was elected to be the Mother of God, it was appropriate that she should know by fruition and experience the treasure of the infinite deity, and see him face to face as her God, whom, having enjoyed, she was to clothe in mortal flesh and bear about in her virginal womb, and whom she was afterwards to treat as her Son and as her God. Even with all the aforesaid purity and sinlessness, and with the addition of sanctifying grace, the soul is not yet worthy or capable of the beatific vision, since still other dispositions and divine operations are required. With these, the Queen of Heaven was furnished whenever she enjoyed this vision, and hence they are much more necessary to any other soul that is to be thus favored in mortal flesh. After the soul has reached the state of purity and sanctification above described, the Lord adds a finishing touch as of a most spiritual fire, which refines and chases it as fire does the gold, or as Isaiah was purified by the seraphim. It has two effects in the soul. First, it spiritualizes and separates in it, according to our mode of understanding, the dross and earthliness connected with its present existence and its union with the bodily matter. Secondly, it fills the soul with a new light which scatters, I do not know what obscurity and darkness, just as the light of the morning scatters the darkness of night. This light takes possession, leaves the soul clarified and replenished with new splendors of a divine fire, producing still other effects in the soul. For if it is guilty or has been guilty of any sins, the soul deplores these sins with incomparable sorrow and contrition, with a sorrow that cannot be equaled by any other human sorrow, for all are very little in comparison with it. At the same time, it feels another effect of this light. It purges the understanding of all the images impressed upon it by the sensible and visible things of earth. For all impressions and images acquired by the senses distort the intellectual vision and serve only as a hindrance to the clear vision of the supreme spiritual essence of God. Therefore, it is necessary to clear and evacuate from the faculties all these earthly idols and images. Not only is this necessary in order that the soul may see God clearly and intuitively, but equally so in order to see him abstractively.